right, so for everyone who's watching, I'm here with my dear friend and client, Vincent, and we're basically just going to discuss our little PT client relationship we had. So how are you doing, Vincent?
Yeah, I'm well. I'm well. Thank you, Mark. How are you?
Good. Yeah, I'm good, very well as well.
Excellent.
So basically the first question is, before we met, what were you struggling with the most?
Actually, when I first came to you, it's because I had back problems, and back problems in the sense that a physio told me that I need to strengthen my back and my core. Otherwise, I'll have persistent lower back issues. And I also had a referral to why I had weak ankles because of the lack of core strength I had. So actually, that's why I initially came to you, if you remember.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is also good that you mentioned that sometimes it's a pain which brings people to actually choose to, do something about their body. And it can be a back pain. It can be the pain of being overweight. It can be so many things. But for you was the back pain, right? Now, remind me or tell everyone, how did we actually meet?
I found you actually online with highly recommended as well. I thought we'll meet there, and we had a first consultation. And I described to you what I was struggling with. You made a sort of an assessment, so
Yep.
we know where we're moving towards, and
Yeah.
flexibility and sort of strength and all those kind of things that you tested me on.
Yeah. Now, did you have any sort of fears or hesitations or preconceptions before taking up that training with me, but not knowing me?
Well, I had an expectation if that's okay, because I was specifically looking for someone who knew how to train core strength and back pain. I can't remember where you were when I was in terms of like ranking or looking, but you weren't. I don't think you were the first. So I was not clicking the first, but you were the one that was most highly recommended. So I had an expectation from you, at least, that you knew about back pain or back injuries and how to strengthen that. So that was my expectation, at least, as to why I came to you, as opposed to just go to the gym, get a PT, etc.
Um, what would you say to someone who doesn't know me like you do and wants to take up online personal training?
Well, first of all, knowing you, after working with you, first of all, that expectation was most definitely met. And what I can say about you as a personal trainer is that, I don't want to just say, but you are one of the best, because actually, what I've had a lot of PTs in my sort of life, mostly, in the first place, like overweight and want to lose some weight, etc. And they're all very good. They show you exercises, how to do it. But actually, the key part and why you're sort of one level above is that you correct the form. And as you know, when I was training with you, I hated it because trying to correct the form actually made it that much harder. I thought I was doing so well, and they go, no, just turn your hips this way, and then it was like impossible to do the exercise. But it showed that doing it properly is so important. There was no way for me to know, and even now when I go to the gym, I always worry that I don't do it correctly, and that's actually the biggest problem why. When I go to the gym myself, that's I'm not doing the right technique. And I now know that, because if the exercise seems easier than I expect it to be, I know I'm probably doing it wrong.
Now, but would you say that having had personal training with myself, that you now do know something more than you didn't know before?
Absolutely. I used to hate deadlifts, for example. And actually, I really quite like deadlifts now. Now I do it properly. Probably, maybe I'll just say 85% properly. um, I've learned how to do some of the exercises that I thought I knew how to. So at least, or hopefully, I don't injure myself doing them. That's the first point of call. But I still do follow some of the techniques that you taught. So I am able to do it in the gym and get a more effective workout effectively.
I mean, something to point out here is that because you have back problems, I was more conscious about your form than with everyone else, because obviously doing a deadlift puts so much pressure on your lower back. So that's why we needed to make sure that that form is 100% before you then go off and say, you know what, I'm going to do this all by myself. And obviously starting with a lower weight and so on and so forth.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And apart from that, a lot of exercise. I learned a lot of new exercises that I previously didn't know. Maybe I've seen people do, but not know how to do them. Also, just the form of them, just even exercising without weights, posture. There's actually a lot more that I learned from you, not just from, here's a weight, now go ahead and do it. It's actually a lot of just general health, which was actually what I was looking for when I came to you.
Now, what would you say, what kind of solutions did they give you?
Well, yeah, I mean, before to give you sort of before and after sort of picture, before I came to your PT, not only was I slightly unfit, and that's probably one reason why I had back issues, but on a day-to-day perspective, I was I couldn't sit in my office chair for about more than 45 minutes an hour. Now, probably should have got a standing desk, but that wasn't an offer either. And after sort of strengthening, not that I should be sitting more, but I was at least able to focus more on my work, because after about half a day of sitting, I basically I just couldn't do anymore, and it was actually affecting my job. And also, I had a big issue about rolling my ankle because of weak glutes that I had on my right side. And actually, I rolled my ankle a lot less. Yeah, I mean, big difference in my everyday life.
Speaking of that, sort of, what kind of results have you gotten?
Well, the unintended result I want to start with is actually not just the weight loss. I mean, I knew I probably would lose some weight because obviously I'm being more active. But actually, while I was training with you, I dropped to my lowest weight I've been in 15 years, actually. And
Wow.
it was surprising, given that I actually didn't even follow your nutrition plan, just to be very candid about it. So probably could have got even better results, because I wasn't in there for weight loss. I was in there to strengthen my back. So I didn't really, and amazingly, it really did. And I think the weight wasn't even the biggest thing, because actually I think I put on quite a bit of muscle as well in my core strength, and I can see it in my clothing and everything around there. So that was actually an unintended consequence. It was the intended consequences to strengthen my back, stop having to get someone to either massage or stretch, or me just like standing up and complain about my back. That was a key goal. I didn't care about really the weight side. No, it wasn't really important. But unintended was, I think I dropped about 8 kilos, which wasn't intended at all.
Yeah, I know. I remember that. But then also, when you just said you didn't follow the plan, the diet plan is not really correct, because at the end of the day, I remember when we were talking that you said, you asked me a lot of questions about food and stuff. And what might have happened is that you were more conscious about it, but you didn't follow the actual plan, but you were more aware of what was going on. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, yeah, when I said I didn't follow, I was actually probably referring to one particular type, which is alcohol. I still just drink as much alcohol as she told me not to. But I did know, I was definitely more conscious of the number of calories. I mean, I always thought I could just estimate calories. I think I always underestimate. But you actually explain a lot about on the nutrition side, sort of what it is that you should or what I should be eating, etc. Cut down alcohol, but that didn't really happen, the alcohol part. But apart from the alcohol part, I think I loosely, let's just say, followed, and I was definitely more conscious. I was more aware of what I was eating.
Yeah, but then I mean, also what is good to mention, that you still were drinking alcohol, means you were not being cutting it out because you might enjoy it also, and that's, to be fair, you got a pretty decent result by even sticking to something where you were saying, I'm not going to cut it out.
No, absolutely. I mean, I'm not a heavy drinker. I don't sound like that. I just drink every day. So after the session, but absolutely, I didn't. It wasn't a really strict diet. Cut everything out. Still enjoyed it, and I got not only the intended results, but all the unintended results as well. And as how impressed I was, I finally convinced my wife to come and see you as well. So and she really enjoyed those sessions too. So. I mean, normally we don't really exercise all the same trainers, and she gets her own or whatever it may be. But in this case, it was. So yeah, absolutely.
What is different about this program to anything else you've tried before?
The range of actually exercises and the creativeness actually you put on the exercises is also a big difference compared to others that I've trained with. And actually, what you do very well, and I can't even recommend myself is, and other trainers, is you really push the limits on every session without going over the limit. I've had trainers previously that, you know, to either prevent injury or not prevent injury. It's not like saying you push it out. It's more like they don't push you enough, and you feel like you didn't really get much out of it, or sometimes they push too hard, and you're like, well, this guy's a bit, not great. But you knew exactly where to sort of balance that. So I got the most out of every session. Because in the end, I mean, for the first batch of training that we did, it wasn't overly long. It was, I think, around 4 months, 4 or 5 months. So it wasn't like we did for whole years with the training. And they're the kind of results I got in that 4 or 5 month period. I think it was twice a week that we did. At the beginning, they end up to be like 3 times a week, but it started off as twice a week. So for what is, obviously everyone who trains knows you need to do more than probably that to get some of the results. These are the results I got, and I didn't really train outside working because I had to recover effectively.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the 3 main difference: technique, the range of exercises, and actually knowing very clearly where to push my limit without going over, so I can recover and train the next day or even 2 days later.
Now, if someone is sitting on the fence of deciding of doing this program, what will you say to that person?
I would say do it. It's quite simple. It's because even when I first started with you, I did remember I was like, oh, this is going to be really hard. Like, I know, what am I going to do? But actually, by session 3 or so, it was something I was super looking forward to, because actually it was, everyone knows day one's the hardest. You get over day 1 and you're like, oh, this what wasn't day 1 is going to be horrible for the rest of the time, so you don't do it anymore. A lot of people might not. But actually, as I said, the way you pace it, even though it was painful day 1, actually the fitness test was probably the most painful, but the day one as well, is, it's really enjoyable. It changes actually how your well-being, and as long as you stick with it. And there are some days, I remember I had a day where I told you, how come I'm not performing as well? And you're like, what are you doing outside? Or maybe some running, I'm playing to touch against. You want to do more, be more active, because you're doing too much. Got to stop and recover. So it got me to a point I was so excited too much, and I had to actually completely stop and just recover, and then I was performing again. But it showed that you became more active. So I would say do it, because with your guidance, it does make a huge difference, really big difference.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Vincent. Now, for everyone else who's still watching, above or below the video, there will be a button to sign up for a call with myself. It's a free strategy session where we will discuss certain things, like, for example, you've just heard what I do with Vincent. If this sounds interesting to you, click the button. I'll talk to you soon.